The morning sun streamed through the blinds, painting golden stripes across Michael Chen's bedroom wall. At 19, he moved with the easy confidence of someone whose body had never failed him. He stretched, feeling the pleasant burn in his muscles from yesterday's training. The regional swimming championships were only 3 weeks away, and Coach Taylor had high hopes for him. "Michael, breakfast." His mother's voice carried up the stairs. Michael glanced at his phone. 3 missed calls from his mother last night while he was out with friends. He sighed. Ever since his acceptance letter to State University arrived, his mother had become even more protective, calling and texting constantly. He knew she meant well, but sometimes her concern felt suffocating. Downstairs, Sophia Chen moved efficiently around the kitchen, her dark hair pulled back in a neat bun. She placed a plate of eggs and toast on the table just as Michael entered. "You didn't answer my calls last night," she said, not looking up as she poured orange juice. Michael dropped into his chair. "I was with the guys from the team. We were celebrating. Until 2 in the morning? On a school night? Mom, I'm graduating in 3 months. College in the fall. I think I can handle staying out late once in a while." Sophia's lips thinned. "That's exactly when accidents happen, Michael. When young people think they're invincible." Michael rolled his eyes and took a bite of toast. This was their dance lately. Her worrying, him pulling away. Sometimes he wondered if it would always be like this between them. "I have a big test today," he said, changing the subject. "And Coach wants me to try a new training technique after school." Sophia's expression softened. "You're working so hard. I'm proud of you, you know." "I know, Mom." Michael smiled, a genuine one this time. Despite their clashes, he never doubted she was in his corner. "I'll be home for dinner, promise." 6 o'clock, she reminded him, her hand briefly touching his shoulder as she passed. The school day dragged. Michael kept checking the clock, anxious to get to the pool. Swimming had been his refuge since he was 7, the one place where everything made sense. In the water, he wasn't the quiet Asian kid or the science nerd, he was simply fast. His phone buzzed during history class. Extra practice canceled today. Pipe burst in pool area. See you tomorrow. Coach. Michael frowned. The whole afternoon stretched empty before him now. As the final bell rang, he texted his friend Devin, who had just gotten his license in his dad's old car. "Pool's closed. Want to hit the lake instead?" 20 minutes later, they were speeding down the county road that led to Clear Lake, windows down, music blasting. 2 more guys from the swim team were crammed in the back seat. "Dude, slow down," said Raj from the back. "My mom will kill me if I get another ticket." "Relax," Devin laughed, but he eased off the gas a little. "Hey, Chen, your mom know you're with us bad influences?" Michael snorted. "What she doesn't know won't hurt her." The lake came into view, its surface glittering in the afternoon sun. In the summer, the place would be packed, but in early April, they had it mostly to themselves. A few college kids were setting up a portable grill near the shore. The boys tumbled out of the car, racing each other to the water's edge. "It's going to be freezing," Raj warned. "Scared?" Michael teased, already pulling his shirt over his head. The water would be cold, but after years of early morning practices and poorly heated pools, he barely noticed anymore. He waded in up to his knees, feeling the shock of cold travel up his legs. Perfect. He dove forward, cutting cleanly through the surface. The world went silent except for the rush of water past his ears. This was why he loved swimming. The weightlessness, the quiet, the simplicity of moving through water. The afternoon passed in a blur of impromptu races, splashing, fights, and lying on the shore talking about college plans and girls from school. By the time they packed up to leave, the sun was hanging low in the sky. "I need to get home," Michael said, checking his phone. 5:30. If traffic was light, he'd make it for dinner as promised. "Want us to drop you?" Devin asked, twirling his keys. "Nah, I'll bike from your place. It's faster than going through downtown at this hour." At Devin's house, Michael grabbed his backpack and bike from where he'd left them that morning for their carpool. His legs felt pleasantly tired from swimming. As he pedaled through the neighborhood, he was thinking about dinner, about maybe trying to really talk with his mother tonight. Explained that he needed some space, but that didn't mean he didn't appreciate everything she did. They used to be so close when he was younger. Maybe they could find that again before he left for college. The intersection ahead had a four-way stop. Michael slowed, noted the lack of cars, and continued through. He never saw the SUV. Later, witnesses would say it came barreling through the stop sign at nearly twice the speed limit. The driver, a middle-aged man, had been looking down at his phone. Michael had a split second to register the flash of metal before impact. The collision threw him 30 feet. His bike crumpled like tissue paper beneath the vehicle's weight. He didn't feel the landing, didn't feel anything at all. Beeping machines. The antiseptic smell of hospital. Voices speaking in hushed, urgent tones. Michael floated in and out of consciousness. Sometimes he heard his mother's voice, raw with emotion. Sometimes strangers using words he couldn't fully grasp. Spinal cord, severed, paralysis. When he finally woke fully, Sophia was there, holding his hand. Her face was drawn, eyes red-rimmed, from crying. "Mom?" His voice came out as a rasp. "I'm here, baby. I'm right here." Her grip tightened on his fingers. "I can't feel my legs," he whispered. "I can't feel anything below my neck." The tears that had been brimming in Sophia's eyes spilled over. "There was an accident. You're in the hospital. You've been here for 3 days. The guy on his phone," Michael remembered suddenly. "He hit me," Sophia nodded. "Yes, he's been arrested." "My bike?" "Don't worry about that now," she soothed. "Just rest." But Michael couldn't rest. Panic was building in his chest. "Mom, I can't move. Why can't I move?" A doctor appeared at the bedside, a woman with kind eyes and a serious expression. "Michael, I'm Dr. Rivera. You've suffered a severe spinal cord injury at the C5 vertebra. The impact damaged your spinal cord, but it will heal, right?" He looked from the doctor to his mother and back. People recover from broken bones all the time. The silence that followed told him everything. "I'm sorry," Dr. Rivera said gently. "The damage is extensive. You're experiencing quadriplegia, paralysis affecting all 4 limbs and the torso." "The championships," Michael said, his voice breaking. "They're in 2 weeks." Sophia made a small wounded sound. "There will be long-term rehabilitation," the doctor continued. "And there are technologies and treatments that can help you adjust to this new reality." New reality. The words echoed in Michael's head. This couldn't be happening. Just hours ago, or was it days, he had been cutting through the lake water, strong and free. "I want to be alone," he whispered. "Michael," his mother began. "Please." After they left, he stared at the ceiling, willing his body to move. A twitch, a flutter, anything. Nothing happened. He tried to reach for the cup of water beside his bed, but his arm lay still. A tear slipped from the corner of his eye, trailing down into his hair. Outside his room, he could hear his mother crying. The following weeks were a blur of surgeries, medical jargon, and terrible firsts. The first time a nurse had to help him with bodily functions. The first time he was strapped into a wheelchair, his head supported by a brace. The first time he saw the pity in his friends' eyes when they visited. Through it all, Sophia never left his side. She learned every procedure, asked endless questions, took notes on everything from medication schedules to physical therapy techniques. When the hospital staff began discharge planning, she transformed their home, turning the living room into a bedroom for Michael, installing ramps and special equipment. "You don't have to do all this," Michael told her one afternoon as she argued with an insurance representative on the phone about coverage for a specialized wheelchair. "Of course I do," she said after hanging up. "You're my son." "What about your job?" Sophia had been a dental hygienist for 15 years, work she took pride in. "I've taken a leave of absence." "For how long?" She avoided his eyes. "As long as needed." That night, after his evening medications had been administered, and Sophia thought he was asleep, Michael heard her on the phone with his aunt. "I don't care. What it takes," she was saying, her voice fierce despite its low volume. "Remortgage the house, sell the car, he's going to have the best care, the best equipment, the best chance." Michael closed his eyes, throat tight with emotion. Their relationship, once strained by his teenage independence, had been rewritten in an instant. Now he depended on her for everything. As he drifted to sleep, he made a silent promise. Somehow, someday, he would stand on his own 2 feet again. For her, 2 years passed, marked not by days but by small victories and crushing setbacks. Michael's bedroom calendar no longer tracked swim meets and college application deadlines, but doctor appointments and therapy sessions. The morning light filtered through new curtains Sophia had hung last week, blue like the lake water Michael once glided through. He lay awake, listening to the familiar sounds of his mother preparing for the day, the soft pad of her slippers on the hallway floor, the gentle click of the coffee maker, the rustle of pill bottles being organized. His door opened and Sophia appeared with a smile that never quite reached her eyes anymore. At 45, she looked a decade older, her once black hair now streaked with gray, lines etched around her eyes that hadn't been there before the accident. "Good morning," she said brightly. "Ready for breakfast?" Michael nodded, the small movement one of the few he could manage on his own. In the 2 years since the accident, he had regained limited mobility in his shoulders and upper arms, enough to operate a specialized wheelchair with a joystick, but not enough for most daily tasks. "Physical therapy at 10, Sophia reminded him as she adjusted his bed to a sitting position. "Dr. Patel says they're trying something new today." Michael tried to match her enthusiasm. "Great." She paused in her morning routine, studying his face. "Bad night?" He considered lying, then decided against it. They'd moved beyond such pretenses. "The spasms were bad, and I had the dream again." Sophia nodded, understanding without explanation. The dream was always the same, Michael swimming strong and whole until the water suddenly solidified around him, trapping him in place while everyone else continued moving freely. "You'll tell Dr. Chen at your appointment next week?" she asked, referring to the psychiatrist who had been helping Michael navigate the depression that followed his injury. "Yeah, I'll tell him." Sophia helped him through the morning routine, washing, dressing, transferring to his wheelchair. Her movements were practiced now, efficient yet gentle. They had developed a rhythm over the months, a dance of caregiving that neither had ever imagined would become their daily reality. Over breakfast, Sophia chatted about the garden she had started in the backyard, visible through the large windows they'd installed during the home renovations. Michael watched a hummingbird dart between the flowers as his mother fed him spoonfuls of oatmeal. "I was thinking," she said casually, "maybe we could invite some of your old friends over this weekend. Devin called yesterday. He's back from college for the summer." Michael tensed. His friends had drifted away after the accident, their visits becoming less frequent, their conversations more strained. He didn't blame them. What 19-year-old knew how to talk to a friend who would never walk again, never swim again, never do any of the things they once shared? "I don't think so, Mom." Sophia set down the spoon. "It might be good for you to—" "I said no." The words came out sharper than he intended. "I'm sorry, I can't deal with the way they look at me." She nodded, hiding her disappointment. "Whatever you're comfortable with." The physical therapy center smelled of antiseptic and sweat. Michael had come to associate the scent with both hope and frustration. Here, small miracles happened daily. Patients taking their first steps after accidents, regaining movement in limbs doctors had declared useless. But for Michael, progress was measured in fractions, in muscles that twitched when they once lay dormant. Dr. Patel, a compact man with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, greeted them warmly. "Today we try something promising," he said, his slight Indian accent more pronounced when excited. "A new harness system that supports your body weight while stimulating neural pathways." The technicians helped transfer Michael from his wheelchair to the apparatus, a complex arrangement of straps and supports suspended over a treadmill. Electrodes were attached to his legs, connected to a computer that would send small pulses to his muscles. The idea is not that you will walk independently, Dr. Patel explained, but that maintaining the walking motion may preserve muscle tone and possibly stimulate neural regeneration. Sophia watched from the corner, her hands clasped tightly together. Michael recognized her expression, hope battling with the fear of another disappointment. As the machine activated, Michael's legs began to move in a crude walking pattern. The sensation was bizarre, his brain knowing his legs were moving but unable to feel them properly. Sweat beaded on his forehead from the effort of trying to contribute to the motion, to find the lost connection between his brain and his lower body. After 30 minutes, they lowered him back into his wheelchair. He was exhausted, as if he had swum 100 laps, but for the first time in months, he felt something close to accomplishment. "You did wonderfully," Dr. Patel said. "We will continue twice weekly." In the car driving home, Sophia kept glancing at him in the rearview mirror. "You look different," she finally said. "Different how?" "I don't know. Like, there's a spark back." Michael looked out the window. "I felt something today. Not in my legs, but inside. Like maybe there's a way forward that isn't just sitting in a room watching life happen without me." Sophia's eyes glistened. "There is, Michael, there always has been." That night, after Sophia had helped him into bed, he caught her hand before she could turn away. "I'm going to stand again someday, Mom. I promise. I'm going to stand beside you." She smiled, squeezing his hand. "I believe you." The headaches began a month later. At first, Sophia dismissed them as stress, taking over-the-counter pain relievers and continuing her relentless schedule of caring for Michael, maintaining the house, and coordinating with insurance companies. But when Michael found her sitting on the bathroom floor one morning, her face ashen, he insisted she see a doctor. "It's nothing," she protested weakly. "Just need more sleep." "Mom," he said firmly, "you've taken care of me for 2 years. Let me take care of you for once. Make the appointment." The diagnosis came like a thunderclap on a clear day. Stage 4. Glioblastoma, an aggressive brain tumor that had likely been growing for months while Sophia ignored her symptoms, too focused on her son's needs to attend to her own. 6 months, the oncologist said gently. Perhaps a year with treatment, but the location makes surgical options limited. Michael watched his mother absorb the news, her face calm in a way that terrified him. She was already calculating, he realized, planning how to arrange his care after she was gone. "We'll fight it," he said fiercely when they were alone. "Whatever it takes." Sophia nodded, but her eyes held a resignation that broke his heart. "Of course we will." The roles reversed with cruel swiftness. Now it was Michael directing care from his wheelchair, researching treatments, interviewing home health aides, making sure Sophia took her medications on time. His father, long absent after the divorce when Michael was 10, sent money, but remained physically absent, unable to face the dual tragedy that had befallen his former family. Michael's sister Lisa flew in from Seattle every other weekend, but she had young children who needed her. The daily care fell to Michael's determination and the team of healthcare workers they could afford. As the months passed, Sophia's decline was brutal in its speed. The vibrant woman who had carried Michael through his darkest days faded before his eyes. Her hair fell out from the chemotherapy, her speech slurred from the tumor's pressure on her brain. But her love remained unwavering. On good days, they sat in the garden she had planted, Michael in his wheelchair, Sophia in a reclining chair the hospice service had provided. They talked about simple things: the birds at the feeder, the changing, colors of the maple tree, memories from Michael's childhood. "Remember when you were 7, she said one afternoon, her voice thin but smiling. "And you refused to get out of the public pool, the lifeguard had to carry you out." Michael laughed. "I just wanted 5 more minutes." "You always did," she said softly. "Always reaching for a little more time." The unsaid hung between them. That time was the one thing they no longer had. One night, after the home health aide had left, Michael wheeled himself into Sophia's room. She was awake, gazing out the window at the moon. "Can't sleep?" he asked. She patted the bed beside her. With effort, Michael maneuvered his wheelchair close enough that she could reach out and touch his face. I need you to promise me something, she whispered. Anything. Promise me you won't stop living when I'm gone. Her fingers trembled against his cheek. Promise me you'll find a way to be happy. Michael's throat constricted. Mom, promise me, Michael. He took a shaky breath. I promise. She smiled, satisfied. And I still believe you'll stand again someday. I know I won't be here to see it, but I believe it. Michael clasped her hand as tightly as his limited strength allowed. I'll stand for you, Mom. Even if you're not here, I'll stand for you. 2 weeks later, surrounded by Michael, Lisa, and the soft music she loved, Sophia Chen closed her eyes, for the last time. Outside the window, the hummingbirds darted among the flowers she had planted, carrying on their tiny, vibrant lives as hers slipped away. Michael couldn't attend the funeral. A respiratory infection, common among quadriplegics, had left him hospitalized. He watched the service through a video call Lisa had set up, tears streaming unchecked down his face as they lowered his mother's casket into the ground. That night, alone in his hospital room, he made a silent vow. Someday, somehow, he would visit that grave, and he would not arrive in a wheelchair. For Sophia, he would stand again. Even if it took 20 years, the world continued spinning after Sophia's death, indifferent to the hole she left behind. Seasons changed. Bills arrived. The garden she had planted withered without her care. Michael retreated into himself. The spark that had briefly reignited during his therapy sessions was extinguished, leaving only cold ashes. He refused visitors, canceled appointments, and responded to his sister Lisa's concerned calls with one word, answers, until she stopped calling so frequently. His father sent money but remained a ghost, his guilt manifesting only in regular bank deposits and impersonal birthday cards. The home health aides came and went, their faces blurring together as Michael stared at the ceiling, counting cracks in the paint. 6 months after the funeral, a funeral he couldn't even attend, Lisa arrived unannounced. She used her key to enter the house, now dim and musty from closed windows and neglect. This can't go on, she said, standing in the doorway of what had once been the living room, now Michael's bedroom. Look at this place, look at you. Michael turned his head away. He had lost weight, his cheeks hollow beneath several weeks' worth of beard. The television droned in the background, though he wasn't watching it. Go away, Lisa. Instead, she opened the curtains. Sunlight spilled across the room, revealing dust motes floating in the air and the general disarray of the space. Dirty dishes sat on the bedside table. Pill bottles were scattered across the dresser, some empty, some full. Mom would hate seeing you like this, Lisa said quietly. Mom's not here. The words came out bitter, sharper than the dulled edges he usually existed within. Lisa sighed and sat on the edge of his bed. At 32, she looked like Sophia had before the illness. Dark hair, determined eyes, a strength that came from somewhere deep inside. I know you couldn't go to the funeral, she said. Would you like to visit her grave now? It might help with closure. Michael stared at the ceiling. What's the point? The point is that she loved you. The point is that you made her a promise. A stupid promise I can never keep. Lisa was quiet for a moment. You promised to stand again someday. But she also made you promise something, didn't she? To keep living. Michael closed his eyes. I am living. Heart beating. Lungs working. That's living. No, it's not. It's existing. Lisa stood up. I'm coming back tomorrow with cleaners and a social worker, and we're going to figure out what's next for you. True to her word, Lisa returned the next day with reinforcements. The house was cleaned, appointments were made, and a new care plan was established. Michael submitted to it all with passive indifference. Nothing mattered anymore, but it was easier to go along than to fight. A year passed. Then 2. Then 5. Michael moved into an assisted living facility that specialized in spinal cord injuries. His family home was sold, the money placed in a trust to pay for his ongoing care. Lisa visited monthly, bringing photos of her growing children and news from the outside world that Michael acknowledged but didn't engage with. The facility was clean and well-run, the staff professional if not particularly warm. Michael's days fell into a routine: physical maintenance in the morning, occupational therapy in the afternoon, television in the evening. He went through the motions, doing just enough to maintain his physical health while his emotional life withered. There were others like him in the facility, men and women whose bodies had betrayed them, whose lives had been interrupted. Some fought back with determination, participating in experimental treatments and pushing their rehabilitation to the limits. Others, like Michael, simply existed, day after identical day. "Mr. Chen, you have a visitor," the nurse announced one afternoon, about 7 years after his mother's death. Michael looked up from his book, surprised. Lisa wasn't due for another week and no one else ever came. The man who entered was vaguely familiar, graying at the temples, wearing an expensive suit that couldn't quite hide his expanding waistline. It took Michael a moment to place him. "Devin?" His old friend nodded, clearly uncomfortable. "Hey, Michael, it's been a while." 10 years, give or take. Michael closed his book. "What brings you here?" Devin sat in the visitor's chair, fidgeting with his watch. "I'm in town for a conference, banking software, boring stuff." He paused. "I thought I've been meaning to." "Visit the guy whose life you think you ruined?" Michael supplied, his voice flat. Devin flinched. "I was the one. Who suggested going to the lake that day?" "If we'd just gone home after school." "It wasn't your fault," Michael interrupted. "It was the guy on his phone who ran the stop sign. The courts established that pretty clearly." An awkward silence fell between them. Two men who had once been boys together, now separated by more than just the years. "How's life treating you?" Michael finally asked, the social niceties coming back to him slowly, like a language long forgotten. Devin brightened, relieved to be on safer ground. "Good, actually. Married, 2 kids, house in the suburbs, the American dream, right?" He pulled out his phone, showing pictures of a smiling woman and 2 young boys. Michael nodded politely, looking at the images of a life that could have been his in some other version of reality. "And you?" Devin asked, then immediately looked embarrassed. How are you managing?" "I'm here," Michael said simply. "Breathing in, breathing out." Devin stayed for 20 minutes, filling the air with stories about college, his job, mutual friends who had scattered across the country. Michael listened without really hearing, watching Devin's hands as they gestured. Hands that could still move freely, that could hold his children, that could build the life he wanted. "I should visit more often," Devin said as he was leaving, both of them knowing he wouldn't. "No need," Michael replied. "I'm not going anywhere." After Devin left, Michael sat by the window for a long time, watching the facility's small garden where residents in wheelchairs were sometimes taken on nice days. His mother would have hated this place, not because it wasn't adequate, but because it was only adequate. Nothing more. That night, for the first time in years, he dreamed of Sophia. Not sick and dying, but as she had been when he was a child. Laughing, strong, her hands gentle as she taught him to fold paper cranes. In the dream, he could move, his fingers working alongside hers to create delicate wings from flat paper. He woke with tears on his face and the ghost of movement in his fingers. 10 years became 15. The world outside the facility changed dramatically. Smartphones became ubiquitous. Electric cars went mainstream. Wars began and ended. Medical technology advanced by leaps and bounds. Occasionally, Lisa would bring articles about breakthroughs in spinal cord injury treatment, stem cell therapies, neural implants, exoskeletons that could help paralyzed people walk. Michael would nod and set them aside, unread. His father died of a heart attack in his sleep, leaving his considerable estate to be divided between Michael and Lisa. The money meant nothing to Michael. What good was wealth when you couldn't even scratch your own nose without assistance? Lisa kept trying to pull him back into the world. She brought her children to visit, teenagers now, awkward around their uncle who rarely spoke and never smiled. She suggested online classes, virtual reality experiences, support groups. Michael declined them all. It's been 17 years. Michael, she said during one visit, frustration edging her voice. Mom wouldn't want this for you. Mom's not here, he replied, the same words he had used so many times before. Lisa stood up, unusually angry. No, she's not. She's in a cemetery you've never even visited. She's in a grave you promised to stand beside. I was delusional, Michael said, his voice hard. People with C5 spinal cord injuries don't stand up. That's just reality. You don't know that. You haven't tried anything new in over a decade. The world is changing, Michael. Medicine is advancing, but you've decided to stay frozen in time. He turned away, staring out the window at the garden where spring flowers were beginning to bloom. You don't understand what it's like. No, I don't, Lisa admitted, softer now. I can't possibly understand, but I do know what it's like to lose a brother while he's still breathing. After she left, Michael wheeled himself to the computer room. For the first time in years, he felt a flicker of something. Not quite hope. Hope was too dangerous, but perhaps curiosity. He typed spinal cord injury breakthroughs into the search bar. The results were overwhelming. Articles about nerve regeneration, videos of paralyzed patients taking steps with robotic assistance, research papers on electrical stimulation that had restored limited movement in cases previously thought permanent. Michael read until his eyes burned, absorbing information about technologies that hadn't existed when he retreated from the world. None promised a cure, but many offered possibilities that hadn't been available before. That night he dreamed of standing in his mother's garden, feeling the earth beneath his feet, the sun on his face. When he woke, the familiar weight of impossibility settled back onto his chest. But something had changed, a small crack in the wall he had built around himself. The next day, for the first time in almost 2 decades, he asked his physical therapist about new treatment options. There's a research program at the university hospital, she said, clearly surprised by his interest. They're testing an exoskeleton system, combined with neural stimulation. I could make some calls. Michael nodded. Do that. Then he called Lisa. I'd like to visit Mom's grave, he said when she answered. Not now, not yet, but someday, when I'm ready. The silence on the other end told him she understood what he was really saying. After all these years of existing but not living, he was finally ready to try again. I'll be waiting, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Whenever you're ready. As he hung up the phone, Michael looked at the calendar on his wall. Nearly 2 decades had passed since he made his promise to Sophia. Perhaps it was time to start believing in it again. Change came slowly, then all at once. 2 months after Michael's tentative interest in new treatments, a new physical therapist arrived at the facility. Aisha Patel was different from the rotating staff Michael had grown accustomed to over the years. She was in her mid-30s with quick, intelligent eyes and a no-nonsense manner that brooked no self-pity. Your muscles have atrophied from disuse, she told him bluntly during their first session. Your range of motion is about 60% of what it could be, even with your level of injury. Michael bristled. I've been doing the standard exercises for years. The bare minimum, she corrected, reviewing his file. And you've refused to try any new protocols since 2032. They wouldn't have helped. Aisha looked up from the tablet, studying him. You don't know that. But what's more interesting is why you're suddenly interested now. Michael looked away. My sister thinks I should try. And what do you think? The question caught him off guard. For so long he had existed in a fog of indifference, letting others make decisions about his care. What did he think? Did it even matter? I made a promise, he said finally. A long time ago, Aisha nodded, not pressing for details. Then let's see what we can do. The new regimen was brutal. Aisha pushed him harder than anyone had in years, working his shoulders and arms to their limits. introducing electrical stimulation to his legs to prevent further muscle wasting. She brought in virtual reality equipment that allowed him to simulate movement, tricking his brain into remembering what it felt like to use his body fully. Your injury level means you retain some shoulder and bicep function, she explained. We need to maximize that. Build up your strength for what comes next. What comes next? Michael asked, breathless from the exertion of the simplest exercises. Aisha smiled. We're going to get you into an exoskeleton. For the first time in nearly 2 decades, Michael felt something like excitement. He had read about the newest exoskeletons, robotic frames that could support a paralyzed person's weight and help them stand, even walk a few steps. But they were expensive, experimental, and rarely available outside major research hospitals. How? I've worked with the research team at University Hospital. They're starting a new trial and looking for participants. I've already put your name forward. Michael's heart raced. When? The evaluation is next month, but I need to be honest with you. They're looking for candidates who show commitment, participants who will follow through with the intensive training required. She held his gaze. Are you that person, Michael? After all these years of doing the minimum? The question hung in the air between them. Was he that person? The young swimmer with dreams and determination felt like someone else entirely. A character in a story he'd once heard. I don't know, he admitted. But I want to try. Aisha nodded. That's enough to start with. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of preparation. Lisa took leave from her job to help, attending therapy sessions and researching the exoskeleton program. For the first time in years, Michael's room filled with visitors, doctors evaluating his candidacy, technicians taking measurements, even a psychologist assessing his mental readiness. This isn't a miracle cure, Dr. Yamamoto, the lead researcher, explained during one visit. The exoskeleton doesn't heal the spinal cord. It's a tool that works with what function you have left and provides support for what you've lost. Michael nodded. I understand. Even with the device, you'll need assistance. And the training is grueling. Many participants give up. I won't give up, Michael said, surprising himself with his certainty. Dr. Yamamoto studied him thoughtfully. May I ask what's driving you? After so many years of minimal participation in rehabilitation, why now? Michael hesitated, then reached for the drawer of his bedside table. Inside was a worn photograph of Sophia, taken before her illness, standing in the garden she had loved. He handed it to the doctor. I made her a promise. I told her I would stand again someday. Dr. Yamamoto looked at the photo, then back at Michael. Your mother? She died almost 20 years ago. I never even visited her grave. The doctor returned, the photograph with gentle hands. Then we have work to do. The day Michael was accepted into the program, Lisa brought a small cake to celebrate. They sat in the facility's garden, the early autumn sunlight warm on their faces. I talked to the cemetery yesterday, Lisa said casually, picking at her cake. About accessibility for when you're ready, Michael nodded, his throat tight. I've been thinking about the timing. Oh? The 20th anniversary of Mom's death is in 4 months. Lisa set down her fork. That doesn't give us much time. Us? She smiled, reaching for his hand. You didn't think you were doing this alone, did you? I've already arranged for family leave. We're in this together. For the first time in years, Michael felt tears pricking his eyes. I don't deserve you. Probably not, she agreed lightly. But you're stuck with me anyway. Later that night, alone in his room, Michael looked at the calendar. 4 months. 120 days to learn to use a technology he'd never seen, to strengthen a body he'd neglected for decades, to find the courage to face his mother's grave after all this time. It seemed impossible. But then, he'd been living with the impossible for 20 years. The exoskeleton was both more and less than Michael had imagined. More because the technology was extraordinary, a lightweight frame of carbon fiber and titanium with motors at the joints and sensors that could detect the faintest signals from his functioning muscles. Less because despite its sophistication, using it was incredibly difficult. The device responds to your shoulder movements, Aisha explained during the first fitting. You shift your weight slightly to trigger the next step. It sounds simple, but it requires intense concentration and practice. Simple was the last word Michael would have used. Standing for the first time in the exoskeleton was terrifying. His body, accustomed to sitting or lying down, protested the upright position with a drop in blood pressure that left him dizzy and nauseated. The technicians quickly lowered him back to his wheelchair. "That's normal," Dr. Yamamoto assured him. "Your cardiovascular system needs time to adjust. We'll try again tomorrow, just for a few seconds." Every day thereafter became a battle against his body's limitations, against the complicated machinery, against his own fears. Progress was measured in seconds, 10 seconds standing, 30 seconds, a minute. "I can't do this," Michael gasped. One day, after a particularly difficult session where he'd fallen, the exoskeleton's safety features catching him before he hit the ground. "It's too hard." "Of course it's hard," Aisha said matter-of-factly, helping the technicians reset the equipment. "You're asking technology to replace what your body can't do naturally, but can't isn't the same as won't." Michael glared at her. "Easy for you to say." "Nothing about this is easy," she replied, her voice softening. "Not for you, not for anyone. But that promise you made, that's what you need to focus on right now." She was right, and he knew it. Each night, Michael fell into an exhausted sleep, his body aching from efforts it hadn't made in decades. Each morning he woke with his mother's face in his mind, driving him back to the rehabilitation center. 2 months into the training, Dr. Yamamoto suggested a new approach. "We've been working in the clinical setting with all the support equipment," he said. "But the cemetery won't have ceiling tracks and safety harnesses. We need to simulate real-world conditions." Michael swallowed hard. "What are you suggesting?" "A portable version of the exoskeleton. Less support, more risk, but more freedom." The portable unit was sleeker, designed to be worn under clothing. It offered less support but greater mobility, if Michael could master it. 3 steps, Aisha said during their first session with the new device. "That's our goal today. Just 3 steps with the walker for support. 3 steps. Such a simple thing that most people did without thinking. For Michael, it was a mountain to climb. The first attempt failed. His balance was off, his confidence lacking. The second attempt got him halfway to standing before his nerve gave out. "One more try," Aisha urged. "Think about why you're doing this." Michael closed his eyes, picturing Sophia, not sick and fading, but strong and smiling, tending her garden in the sunshine. He imagined her waiting, patient as always, for him to fulfill his long-ago promise. His eyes opened. "I'm ready." This time, with the therapist standing close, Michael pushed up from the wheelchair. The exoskeleton hummed softly as it supported his weight. His hands gripped the specialized walker, knuckles white with effort. 1 step. His right foot moved forward, the machine responding to the slight shift of his shoulders. 2 steps. Left foot now, sweat beading on his forehead from concentration. 3 steps. Right foot again, and then he stood still, trembling with effort and emotion. "You did it," Aisha said quietly. 3 steps. In the weeks that followed, 3 steps became 5, then 10. The portable exoskeleton was adjusted and readjusted as Michael gained proficiency. Lisa recorded videos of his progress to show her children, their uncle, walking after 20 years. With 1 month left before the anniversary, Michael made his decision. "I want to visit the cemetery before the anniversary," he told Lisa. "Just us. A practice run." "Are you sure? The therapists think you should wait until—" "I need to do this," Michael interrupted. "I need to know I can." Lisa studied her brother's face, thinner than it had been in youth, lined now with years of suffering and recent determination. "Okay," she said finally. "Just us." 2 days later, they drove to the cemetery where Sophia had been laid to rest. 20 years before. Michael had never seen it, had only viewed the funeral through a video call as he lay in a hospital bed, sick with infection and grief. It was peaceful, old trees casting dappled shadows across well-maintained grounds. Lisa parked near the section where their mother lay, then helped Michael prepare the exoskeleton hidden beneath his clothes. "Ready?" she asked, her hand on his shoulder. Michael looked out at the rows of headstones, somewhere among them the woman who had given everything for him. "Ready." The journey to Sophia's grave would be the longest he had attempted with the exoskeleton, 15 steps across uneven ground, more challenging than anything he had done in the controlled environment of the rehabilitation center. But he had made a promise, and after 20 years of darkness, he intended to keep it. The practice run to Sophia's grave didn't go as planned. 5 steps from his wheelchair, the exoskeleton's right knee joint locked up, nearly sending Michael tumbling to the ground. Lisa caught him just in time, her arms straining with the combined weight of her brother in the mechanical frame. "I've got you," she said, her voice tight with effort. "Just breathe." They managed to get him back to the wheelchair, both shaken by the close call. The peaceful cemetery suddenly seemed filled with dangers. Uneven ground, hidden roots, the slight slope of the hill where Sophia was buried. "We should head back," Lisa suggested gently. "Try again another day." But Michael shook his head, staring at the distant headstone they'd been aiming for, so close yet unreachable. "No, I need to see her." Lisa hesitated, then nodded. She pushed his wheelchair along the path, navigating carefully over the grass until they reached Sophia Chen's final resting place. The headstone was simple, polished granite with her name, the dates of her birth and death, and the words, "Beloved," mother carved beneath. Someone had placed fresh flowers in the small vase attached to the stone. Lisa, Michael realized. All these years while he had hidden away, she had been coming here, keeping their mother's memory alive. "She would be proud of you," Lisa said, resting her hand on his shoulder, "for trying." Michael shook his head, bitter disappointment flooding through him. "I failed. Again." "You haven't failed. The equipment failed. There's a difference. The anniversary is in 3 weeks. I'll never be ready in time." Lisa knelt beside his wheelchair, forcing him to look at her. "Then we'll keep working. And if not on the exact anniversary, then the day after or the week after. The date isn't what matters." But it did matter to Michael. 20 years felt significant. A line drawn between the first half of his life and whatever came next. He had lost so much time already. They returned to the facility in silence, Michael lost in thought. That evening, he called Dr. Yamamoto. "I need to know exactly what went wrong today," he said without preamble, "and how to fix it." Over the next 2 weeks, the team worked frantically to modify the portable exoskeleton. The knee joint was reinforced. The battery system was upgraded. The response time between Michael's shoulder movements and the machine's actions was calibrated to microseconds. Michael pushed himself harder than ever before. Morning and afternoon sessions in the rehabilitation center, evening exercises in his room. His body, dormant for so long, protested with pain and exhaustion, but he pushed through it all. "You need to rest," Aisha warned him after a particularly grueling session. "Pushing too hard could set you back." "I don't have time to rest." Aisha studied him, concern in her eyes. "This isn't just about standing at your mother's grave, is it? What happens after?" The question caught Michael off guard. He hadn't thought beyond the anniversary, beyond fulfilling his promise. What did come after? Would he return to his isolated existence, his small room, his limited life? "I don't know," he admitted. Aisha nodded. "That's what worries me. This can't be the finish line, Michael. It has to be the starting point." Her words stayed with him that night as he lay awake, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in 20 years, he allowed himself to imagine a future, not just existing but living, taking classes, meeting people, perhaps even leaving the facility someday, with the right support and technology. The thought was terrifying and exhilarating. 1 week before the anniversary, they tested the modified exoskeleton on the grounds of the rehabilitation center. This time, Michael managed 20 steps without incident, his longest journey yet. "It's working," he said, breathless with effort and triumph. Dr. Yamamoto nodded, pleased but cautious. "The cemetery will be more challenging terrain, and you'll be under emotional stress." "I'll make it," Michael said, his voice firm. "I have to." 3 days before the anniversary, Lisa arrived with news. "Dad's family wants to come," she said hesitantly. "And some of Mom's friends from the dental office. They heard what you're trying to do." Michael tensed. He had imagined this moment as private, just him and Lisa, perhaps Aisha and Dr. Yamamoto for support. The thought of an audience of failing in front of witnesses made his chest tight with anxiety. "I don't know, Lisa." She sat beside him. "They loved Mom too, and they've been praying for you all these years." Michael thought about it. His fathers, relatives, distant figures who sent birthday cards but rarely visited. His mother's former colleagues who had attended the funeral he couldn't face. They were connections to Sophia, to the life that had existed before everything changed. "Okay," he said finally. "But tell them I might not make it all the way. I don't want them expecting a miracle. They just want to be there for you," Lisa assured him. "Whatever happens." The morning of the anniversary dawned clear and cool. A perfect autumn day, much like the one 20 years ago when Sophia had slipped away. Michael woke early, his body tense with anticipation and fear. Aisha arrived at the facility to help him prepare. The exoskeleton was carefully fitted beneath his clothes, a simple button-down shirt and pants that had been modified to accommodate the frame. From the outside, it was barely visible, just a slight bulkiness around his joints. "Remember your training," she said as she made final adjustments. "Focus on one step at a time. Don't rush. If you need to pause between steps, do it." Michael nodded, too nervous to speak. Lisa arrived with her husband, Tom, and their 2 children, now young adults, themselves. They had visited occasionally over the years, but had never seen Michael attempt to walk. Their eyes widened as Aisha helped him into the specialized transport vehicle. "You look different, Uncle Michael," Lisa's daughter said. "More alive." Michael managed a smile. "I feel different." The drive to the cemetery was quiet, each person lost in their own thoughts. When they arrived, Michael was surprised to see a small group already gathered near Sophia's grave. Elderly aunts and uncles, former neighbors, a few faces he didn't recognize. "Are you sure about this?" Lisa asked softly, as Tom prepared the wheelchair. "We can ask them to leave if you want privacy." Michael looked at the gathered people, all there because they had loved his mother, all waiting to witness something they probably thought impossible. "No. Let them stay." As they approached, the crowd parted respectfully. Michael nodded to familiar faces, noting the tears in some eyes, the encouraging smiles on others. Dr. Yamamoto was there too, standing discreetly to one side with equipment, ready in case of malfunction. They positioned Michael's wheelchair about 15 feet from Sophia's headstone. The distance looked enormous suddenly, a chasm of impossibility between his past and whatever future awaited him. Isha knelt beside him, speaking low enough that only he could hear. "Remember to breathe. Take your time. I'll be right beside you." Michael nodded, his mouth dry. Lisa handed him a single white rose, Sophia's favorite flower. "Ready?" Aisha asked. "Ready." The process of standing was now familiar, the subtle whir of motors as the exoskeleton engaged, the shift of weight from sitting to standing, the momentary dizziness as his blood pressure adjusted. Aisha supported him on one side, the specialized walker on the other. A hush fell over the small gathering as Michael took his first step toward the grave. The exoskeleton responded smoothly, moving his right leg forward. His knuckles were white on the walker, his face tense with concentration. Second step, left foot now. The ground was uneven, but the machine compensated. Third step, then fourth. Fifth. Each movement required intense focus. The world narrowed to the space between his feet and the headstone growing gradually closer. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool air. His breathing came in controlled bursts, timed with each step. Halfway there, he paused. His arms trembled with the effort of supporting himself on the walker. For a terrifying moment, he thought he might not make it, that his body would betray him so close to his goal. "You can do this," Aisha murmured. "Just rest a moment." Michael closed his eyes briefly, gathering his strength. He thought of his mother, not as she was at the end, frail and sick, but as she had been throughout his childhood and early adulthood. Strong, determined, unbreakable, until she wasn't. His eyes opened. 6 more steps. He moved forward again, one painful movement after another. The exoskeleton hummed softly, an extension of his will, if not his body. Someone in the crowd was crying quietly. Michael didn't look up to see who. 3 more steps. 2, 1. And then he was there, standing before his mother's headstone for the first time. 20 years of absence, of failure, of giving up, all erased in this single moment of triumph. With Aisha's help, he carefully placed the white rose on top of the stone. His fingers, with their limited mobility, fumbled slightly but managed the task. "I kept my promise, Mom," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I'm standing." No one moved. No one spoke. The only sounds were the rustle of leaves in the gentle breeze, and Michael's ragged breathing. Time seemed suspended in the autumn sunlight, holding this impossible moment like a precious thing. Then Michael did something he hadn't planned, something they hadn't practiced. Still supported by Aisha and the walker, he turned slowly to face the gathered people. His family, his mother's friends, the medical team that had made this moment possible. "Thank you," he said simply, "for not giving up on me, even when I gave up on myself." Lisa stepped forward, tears streaming down her face, and carefully embraced her brother as he stood on his own feet for the first time in 2 decades. "What happens now?" she asked softly. Michael looked back at Sophia's grave, then out at the world beyond the cemetery, a world he had retreated from for so long, a world full of possibilities he had refused to see. "Now," he said, his voice growing stronger, "I start living again. I made 2 promises to Mom. Today I kept the first one. It's time I kept the second." As they helped him back to the wheelchair, his body exhausted but his spirit soaring, Michael knew this wasn't an ending, but a beginning. 20 years of darkness had led to this moment of light, this step back into life, and somewhere he was certain his mother was smiling.